Barbara Scott, welcome.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. My name is Barbara Scott. I'm an unrepresented core participant. My husband, Ronald Scott, had severe haemophilia and he died in March 1993 as a result of being given infected blood products. He had HIV and hepatitis C, and he endured a decade of poor health, anxiety, and uncertainty. He was a kind, generous, loving, brave, stoic, and clever man. He was a good son and a good partner, and we were mostly a happy family. We were married for 22 years, and we have 3 children, our daughter born in 1974 and our son in 1976, and our youngest son in 1981. 2 of my children are here today, and I want to thank them for their love and resilience. In 1977, the first signs of his illness began to appear. He was hospitalized, and in the fullness of time he recovered, but he was given the diagnosis of having a non-A, non-B hepatitis. And in 1983 he was told, quite casually when he went to the hospital one day to pick up some blood products, that he was HIV positive. The impact of infected blood has been very difficult and a source of sadness for our family. The secrecy around Ronald's diagnosis caused some tension, particularly in the early years after his death. Secrets in families are toxic, even if the intention is from the best of motives. We told no one about his diagnosis, not his parents, not my children, not our friends. Only one friend guessed near to the end. I have prepared a witness statement for the inquiry, which can be found presumably on the website, and provides a detailed account of our history.
I've read it.
Yeah. Thank you. It is self-evident that this inquiry, when it ends, should give participants a sense that they have had justice and compensation for the losses and difficulties they have endured since the 1980s. For myself, I hope that when the report is published, it will give me a clearer overview of the way this treatment disaster played out, with analysis of the role of key players and decision makers and organisations. I know through lived experience the impact on my family, and I've heard some truly harrowing descriptions of the impact of the viruses, their treatment, and the dreadful financial impact on some individuals and families. But what I don't have is an aerial view of how it all happened. And obviously, it's incredibly complex. But I want to know what did or didn't contribute to the disaster. I certainly don't believe it was bad luck. I hope the report addresses the intransigent stubbornness of politicians who have simply refused to consider that they might have taken a more sympathetic and compassionate view of the people caught up in this disaster. My impression in viewing listening to the inquiry is that there was little real regret, and their overriding concern has always been for cost, if there was any admission of fault or liability. They feared an endless stream of supplicants seeking redress. After all, why enrich people who are going to die? It's not as if we're going to offshore our money. I hope the inquiry has quite a lot to say about this. but it stopped a sympathetic response. The hubris of some political contributors exposed their patronising view of the people affected as being other and viewed as being unfortunate, but of lesser importance. Of course, there have been some notable exceptions. There is a wider point which should be made in the report, which applies to the suggestion that others, as well as the infected blood community, are denied justice for decades because it's simply too inconvenient or expensive to take their views or experiences seriously. New arrangements for families bereaved through public tragedy are long overdue. The title of Bishop James Jones' Hillsborough report, The Patronising Disposition of Unaccountable Power, encapsulates the experience of many of the infected blood community, as well as those involved in Hillsborough, Grenfell, Windrush, and probably many others. What is the purpose of government if one of its functions is not to support and protect citizens in times of crisis and difficulty? I think there are good arguments for no-fault compensation scheme for the times when things go wrong, particularly in healthcare. Why do we have such adversarial systems where health bodies do their best to avoid saying that mistakes have been made? Bishop Jones has already suggested a different approach for those who find themselves bereaved by events over which they have little or no control. They're stunned by tragedy and then have to battle for an apology and some sort of award to allow them to continue to care and recover. I'm sure cost is at the heart of this, but in the long term it surely costs more, and the loss of trust is never assessed. Organisations can hardly expect clinicians or others to practice in a reflective way if the culture of public life if it doesn't exist. I suppose things like clinical governance and the Nolan principles were steps in the right direction, but it seems to me it hasn't gone far enough. I'm still firmly of the belief that a publicly funded healthcare system is the fairest and most economical way of delivering healthcare. However, it is almost treated as a belief system where questioning is treated as heresy. This in itself leads to an erosion of confidence. People are scared to challenge and often do not have the language or confidence to raise questions. Better scrutiny, challenge, and greater use of user involvement surely could make a difference. And race and class remain one of the unaddressed issues in healthcare. The necessity of scrutiny and challenge are especially important where people have to manage conditions on a lifelong basis. The sheer length of time we've waited for this inquiry and its recommendations is embarrassing and mean-spirited compared to other jurisdictions who have acted much more quickly to deal with the fallout from infected blood. The beginning of reparations have been made for some people, such as myself, but it's not clear what the final arrangements will be. I very much hope that the compensation arrangements will be sufficiently generous and will not leave people feeling aggrieved or pit one group against another. Given the length of time it has taken to get to this point, I hope it will be as unbureaucratic as possible. Time is pretty critical, as it has already run out for some people. Thank you.
I add my own thanks to those from the room. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then the arrangements for tomorrow, we will be hearing from Ms Gollop on behalf of the Haemophilia Society and a number of individual core participants in the morning, and in the afternoon we'll be hearing from Mr Kennedy on behalf of UK HCDO.
Thank you. So the Haemophilia Society and UK HCDO tomorrow in the morning, Haemophilia Society including some individuals
Yes.
who were affected. Thank you. 10 o'clock.